All right, so tonight I have to admit that I spent a few minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so, destroying Richard Spencer on Twitter. Not the first time. I destroyed him once before his Twitter account was suspended. Mine was suspended also, but apparently Twitter had suspended a whole mass of accounts. So they reinstated mine and reinstated his after a while. And while I'm not sure that the alt-right should, necessarily be on Twitter because of their political views about society in the United States and so forth, I'm still not sure that banning the alt-right or blocking these neo-fascists or neo-Nazis, or whatever you call them, is the answer either. Because to me, honestly, I think that they're harmless. The real issue is that they want to wrap themselves up in politics to defend and encourage even racist and anti-American, anti-social actions that are divisive and are stirring up trouble. Obviously, clearly stirring up trouble, in this country, but they want it to be seen as okay because they're talking about white people. These people, to me, are basically throwbacks to like the last vestiges of American society, where people would think that something is okay because white people want to do it, just like the people who think that something is okay because Americans want to do it or because America does it. People have largely moved on past that, and I think that there are some holdovers. But I think most people have realized that just because the United States wants to do something doesn't make it a good thing. Just as if white people want to do something, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing either. And I think that this is a reaction to that entire progressive movement, modernization, multiculturalism, all of that, where people want to say, okay, first of all, let's not criticize something just because it's of white people are doing it or because it's white society that it represents. We think that whiteness is inherently virtuous, and we think that it should be respected and so forth and so on, not just necessarily attacked and vilified and criticized and condemned as if as it is right now. And I can see that argument. There's a certain point to that, but it only goes so far. Again, you can't go around saying that something is right or good just because you want to believe it's right or good. There are two responses to that. One is that it disassociates any sense of logic and reason from that evaluation. And second, that it enables the person who says that to simply say it and have it simply be true, which I think in both cases is not logical. Now, of course, there are some people who believe that, who think that way, and certainly there are going to be people who think that way no matter what happens, and I think that's something we all have to accept. But again, it doesn't mean everyone has to accept it, and it doesn't mean that it should become American policy or American domestic policy to say that. So really, it's pretty easy to destroy Spencer, and now he's, argumentatively and logically. And now he's at the point where he's talking about, how people attack me physically and how people should, see this as a sign of the cowardice of the liberals and the anti-fascists and so forth. The fact that one guy punched him out in D.C. when he was there for the inauguration, and he did so with a mask on. Somehow that means that all anti-fascists are cowards, and that violence is wrong. It's violence if it's wrong if it's against him or against the alt-right because he's walking down the street. Therefore, it's wrong. Forget about what he's done or said in the past. Let's just worry about what he's doing and saying right at the moment he's attacked, and evaluate it based on that. The guy, his problem is that he's completely hypocritical, really, more than anything else. It's just not sensible to say that something is right or wrong or good or bad just because of what it is. All human concepts are ethereal thoughts running around inside of our heads, and there simply is no universal agreement on what is white, what is good about being white? What is whiteness, for instance? What is European? All these kind of things. There's no real, universal agreement on that. Everyone's got their opinion, and everyone's opinion, is something that could be voiced, but that doesn't mean it should be accepted in and of itself, unless you start to say, oh, well, because it's the opinion of an American, it should be respected. Because it's the opinion of a white person, it should be respected. It's because it's the opinion of an European descendant, it should be respected. Once you start to associate status with respect, you open up a whole can of worms where, hey, one person respects something because of its status, and another person respects something else because of its status, and maybe those two forms of respect are contradictory, and maybe you can't have political freedom and social conservatism at the same time. And to try to say that something is right and good because of what it is a Pandora's box of logical contradictions. You just can't demand respect in this world, okay? Nobody can demand respect. Something has to generate respect in the minds of others, whether it's force or whether it's reason or whether it's capitalist instincts or whatever. It has to be. You can't just demand it and expect to get it. There's no way that you're going to have respect from people if you start leaning on them and saying that, oh, you should respect me because I'm respectable. It just doesn't work. And this is where his problem is. He's lost in this whole concept of the fact that he's white means that what he says makes sense. Or the fact that he's white means that what he wants is the right thing to have, or that people should have it. A very simple problem Trump has also, and a lot of other alt-righters have, and so forth and so on. You just cannot say that just because you say something or because you believe it or because you think it, that therefore it's right and reasonable. That is not how reality works. And that's why he has so much conflict against him. So he then goes on and say, oh, he's not a Nazi or a white supremacist. Those are most often not descriptive terms, just words used to silence voices. Sure, Richard, if you say so. If you want to believe that you're not a Nazi or a white supremacist, that's fine. If you want to believe that saying that somebody is a Nazi or white supremacist is not a descriptive term most often, that's fine too. And if you really want to believe that they are just words used to silence voices, that is also fine. But again, you're relying on your own opinion as if it's fact, and that is inherently your fault. That's your problem. That's where you're going to fail every time. People are quite happy to describe you, and I would say routinely describe you as a Nazi or white supremacist, regardless of whether you think so or not. And if you want to say that they're silencing voices, how can you say they're silencing your voice to call you a Nazi or white supremacist when you merely turn around and get on Twitter and start talking more bullshit? When you merely go on some other TV show or get interviewed or go on some website and start talking more bullshit, how are they silencing your voice? No one's silencing your voice by calling you a Nazi or white supremacist. They're simply stating what they see as the obvious truth. So his problem is ultimately the only way he can really win an argument is to silence those who criticize him. And sure enough, within 10 minutes, he had blocked my Twitter responses and deleted them all from his page. So fine, two can play at that game. I will simply make a video about you and put it on my YouTube page, which I think you deserve to be called the ass of the day, simply because when someone actually called you out on your opinion, you resorted to deletion and, let's just say, intellectual violence. Well done, Richard Spencer, you fucking asshole Nazi.